tonight we are going to talk about getting out of the debt cycle. Getting out of the debt cycle. There is a cycle of debt, and it happens when you live on as much as you make. And then Murphy moves in the spare bedroom, and you got to have tires, or you got to have braces, or you got to have whatever the case may be. And so it is necessary for us to save. Everybody say save. And boy, y'all didn't sound too enthusiastic when you said that. But the Bible encourages us to save. The Bible encourages us to save. The New International Version of Proverbs 21 verse 20 says, "Precious treasure and oil are in a wise man's dwelling, but a foolish man devours it." I know people that can't save 2 nickels, because by the time they get 2 nickels saved, they see a coffee pot that they just got to have, and so they go buy the coffee pot. And they got a good deal on it, but the problem was they spent it. It's not how much you save, it's how much you spend. Stores are real good at saying, you saved $276. Yeah, but you spent $587. And so, Proverbs chapter 30, verse number 24 and 25 in the New International Version. 4 things on earth are small, yet they are extremely wise. Ants are creatures of little strength, yet they store up food in the summer. These ants are small, and even though they're small, they save. They save. And that's what saving's all about. It's about storing up for a rainy day, or you gotta plan like it's never going to happen again. The good times are never going to happen again. And you may be in a position right now where you can't save a whole lot. Anybody able to save about $500 a week? I'd like to see your hand if you are. That's wonderful. Skylar can save $500 a week. What a blessing. At that age, honey, if you'll just start doing it, you'll be in business. Sometimes when we can't save what we consider to be significant amounts, we just figure there's no use and there's no point in even doing it. But you need to create a habit of saving, a habit of saving some percentage. And the most effective way is just to make it automatic. It just automatically happens. Get it out of your eyesight. Get it where you can't easily get your hands on it. Now, some of it you need to keep where you can easily get your hands on. But some of it you need to put where you can't get it in a day or two. It takes a few days to get it. Why? Because you can't act on impulse when you do that. Okay? So, an automatic payroll deduction is a great way to save. Some people save their tax refunds or their bonuses. And if you save immediately, you'll save more. A lot of people say, well, if I have a little bit left over, I'll save something at the end of the week. You're not going to have any left over. There's always something reaching for it. There's always something. If it's not the fellow with the bills, it's I need a new skirt, or I need a new shirt, or the kids need, okay, and I'm all about kids getting what they need, but Sometimes they don't need it near as much as we want them to have it. That goes for kids and grandkids, by the way. Hallelujah. And so the Bible doesn't necessarily teach an amount to be saved, but a good rule of thumb is if you start saving about 10%, if you can get there, and that may be a process of getting to that point where you're saving 10% of your income. See, saving is probably the hardest financial discipline to master. Saving. Because there's always the opportunity to go out to eat. There's always the opportunity. I hear it all the time. I haven't been able to do anything special for quite some time. I know, since the last time you saved up $500. That's the last time you was able to do. So saving may be the hardest financial discipline to master, but there's some benefits to it. First of all, you got a surplus of cash. Anybody ever had something happen and wondered, how in the world am I going to pay for this? Went for an oil change and had to replace 2 tires on the front of the vehicle. And I wasn't planning on that. Well, thank you, Jesus. Or went for a tire rotation and an oil change, and they said, you got to have brakes. I pulled in one time for a tire change, a tire rotation and an oil change, getting ready to go on a trip. And the guy says, you need brakes. I said, how bad do I need? He said, so bad I'm not taking it off this rack until you get some. I said, but, he said, no, but to it. He said, I'm legally obligated to keep this thing on this rack. You will wreck and kill yourself. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Well, that was about the time they got done with brakes and rotors and all the things they had to do is to the tune of about $600 that I wasn't planning on spending. There had to be some savings and surplus of cash. Savings is the best way you're going to break the debt cycle. If you don't save money, you will stay in debt the rest of your life. It's going to happen. And saving allows us to be generous with others. It allows us to be able to give when there is a need. And so the benefits of saving are there. See, the root cause is really not a lack of saving, it's really a lack of self-control. Well, I was going to save $5 this week, but I stopped at the convenience store. Well, I intended to, and we act on impulse, and acting on impulse prevents us from saving because we don't have any self-control. Has anyone heard of compound interest? Ever heard of compound interest? Never heard of compound interest, Sister Melissa? Never heard of compound interest. Well, compound interest is probably one of the most passive forms of income. I know that everybody's talking about passive income, but a compound interest has basically 3 components. The first is the amount that you save, and that amount that you save is dependent on your income and how much you spend. Okay? And so there's an initial investment. Let's just say that you invest $1,000 a year. Now that's less than $100 a month. And I recognize tonight that may be a stretch. But $100 a month, I know folks that spend $100 a month on lunch. I know folks spend $100 a week on lunch. But anyway, we'll journey on. Get you a piece of bread, throw some peanut butter on it and some jelly on it, and take it for you for lunch. If you go sit down at a restaurant with somebody for lunch, it will cost you a minimum of $20. A minimum. Especially if you're given to, I can't eat Mexican without a soft drink, and I can't go to No Way Jose if I don't get cheese dip. And these are things that get expensive. And so let's just say that you save $1,000 a year. If you save $1,000 a year in an account earning 1%, in 5 years you will have put $5,000 in. And you will have $5,101.01. In 10 years, you will have put $10,000 in, and you will have earned, this is at 1% interest. At 1% interest, you will have $10,462.21. In 15 or in 20, you will have put $20,000 in, and you'll have $22,019. In 30, you will have earned a little over almost $5,000. In 40 years, if you invest $1,000 a year, you will have earned almost $9,000 at 1% interest. If you happen to be earning 5% interest on that, if you happen to be earning 5%, in 1 year, if you put $5,000 in, you will have earned an extra $525.63 that year. 5 years, 1,000 at 5%. Okay? In 40 years, at 5% interest, you will have put $40,000 in 40 years, and you will have $120,799.77. That doesn't sound like a whole lot of money. Yes, ma'am. At the moment, there's very few places earning 5%. A CD will usually get you, the last time I checked, it was like 1-2%, which is it's not great, but the economy that we're living in, that's it is what it is. Right now, I've got some stuff invested in something called Landa, and I'm earning about a little over 5.5% dividend on that. Landa, it's an app, and it is what it is it's like a mutual fund in real estate. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. You probably invested in something like a Roth IRA or something like that. It's what? Simple Roth IRA, probably. Yeah. That way you are that's invested in stocks, probably, which is it's a stock mutual fund, but it is a form of saving, and you are probably earning 10%, 8 to 10% on it, probably. Yeah. Are they matching you? What you should be doing right now, where you are in life, is you ought to be maxing everything they will match you on your stuff. And so there's the amount that goes involved in compound interest. Then there's the rate of return. You got to know what rate of return you're getting. So like a CD, you're 1-2% at the most. Raymond James, that's not compound interest. That's mutual funds and stocks. They're invested in something but that's a good thing to be invested in. It's a safe thing, okay? Raymond James, they know what they're doing. That's the way it is. Compound interest would come from things like bank accounts, savings accounts, CDs, bonds, things like that, okay? But it's not just the amount and just the rate of return. You got to leave it alone. You got to put it in and leave it there. Don't mess with it. We're prone to, when something comes up, I got to go get that money out. Don't go get that money out. Find a way to make it happen. Wait. We in America are tied to our instant gratification. We want it right now. That's why folks are paying. Somebody told me they bought a car the other day and they're paying 9% interest because they just couldn't wait. Couldn't wait. And so the longer you leave it in there, the better off you're going to be. So time is the final factor. Now, Jennifer started saving $1,000 a year at age 21. She saved for 8 years and completely stopped. Matt saved $1,000 a year for 37 years, starting at age 29. And they both earned 10%. So now Jennifer saved for 8 years and stopped and put it in an account earning 10%, $1,000 a year. Matt started at 29 and saved for 37 years, $1,000 a year at 10%. This is a hypothetical situation. If you find something you're earning 10% on, please tell me what it is. Okay? But this is a hypothetical situation, but it applies no matter what the interest rate is, okay? The interest rate can fluctuate in the equation, but watch this. At the end of the time, Matt started at 29, saved for 37 years. Jennifer only saved for 8 years and stopped, okay? At the end of the span of time, after Matt's 29 years, at the end of his 37 years, yes. At the end of his 37 years, Jennifer had accumulated, now she only put $1,000 in, $1,000 a year for 8 years. She had $427,736. And Matt only had $363,043, and he saved for 37 years, and she saved for 8 years. The point is, when you're dealing with compound interest accounts, the earlier you can start, the better. The earlier you can start, the better. Got a few young people in this room tonight. You should start now. Yesterday's a pretty good time. And we're talking about something that you cannot get your hands on very easily. So that you got to wait a week to go buy the car if you want to get the money out to go buy it. That way you can think about it. Do I really want to let go of this $50,000? If you're in something where your company is matching and it's retirement account type stuff, there are penalties for drawing it out early. You certainly don't want to do that. So as you're saving, you should remember we put no confidence in our assets. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse number 17, as for the rich in this present age, charge them not to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. The problem with accumulating some stuff is you start putting confidence in that. Confidence in the things that you possess, confidence in the finances that you have. But you got to remind yourself that God alone can be trusted. And part of what will help you to do that is not only saving, but giving generously. 1 Timothy 6, verse 18 and 19. They are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold on that which is truly life. God wants us to be generous, and the benefits of that are there are eternal treasures to enjoy, and there's a blessing of taking hold of what is really life. I know people that have been really good at saving, but they're really bad at life. They're really good at saving, but they're really bad at relationships in life. And the reason they're bad at relationships in life is because they're so focused on money, they don't care about people. And so it's important to develop a savings mindset. Older people. Now, I'm not talking about people like me. I'm not that older. But people that went through the Great Depression. People that went through the Great Depression. My wife's grandmother, for example. When she passed away, we got a box of coins that she'd been saving for the grandkids for years and years and years and years and years. Those people saved. Why? Because they just didn't have much in that Great Depression. And there was a cry that went out through America, and one of the common expressions was, use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. Use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. We live in such an affluent society anymore that we think we got to have something new for every week. I mean, really, it's silly. The amount that we spend on stuff that we just don't need. There was no stigma attached to a frugal lifestyle back in those days. They thought saving was one of the most important things they could do. And so what we've evolved to now is a far cry from what they had. We now adopt the motto, buy it now, throw it out, buy a new one, and don't go without. That's where we live right now. And so in order to save a significant portion of your income, your expenses have got to be reduced. And there's all kinds of ways to do that. I'm going to give you a few tips tonight, and hopefully it'll help you. And I got to hurry because time is ticking away. And my wife says I need a lot more time than this to sufficiently cover some of these topics. But first of all, you should begin with $1,000 of emergency savings. Most of us in this room, if we had to go buy a new set of tires for our vehicle, it would be $1,000 or just under $1,000. those big expeditions and F-150s, them tires are about $200 a piece, real close to it. And by the time they get you for every little add-on, they got to add on for valves, and they got to add on for air, and they got to add on for weights on the tire, and everything's an add-on. They're going to get you for $1,000, okay? And so you need $1,000 emergency fund. It is an emergency. Sonic is not an emergency. Sonic is not an emergency. You should have some peppermint in your pocket. Sonic is not an emergency. Okay, Jack's just came to town. They're not an emergency. But they did have a mighty good biscuit this morning. And so you ought to start off with $1,000 emergency fund. If you are trying to pay off debt, save $1,000 emergency fund so you don't have to keep going back in debt. Save $1,000 emergency fund, and then pay off debt, pay off debt, pay off debt. When you get out of debt, you need to start working toward building up 3 to 6 months of living expenses. 3 to 6 months of living expenses. I don't know what my living expenses are for 3 to 6 months, Pastor. Then you need to fill out a budget. Because if you filled out a budget, you'd know what it would take for you to live for 3 to 6 months. I know about what it's going to take for me to live 3 to 6 months. It's there every week. That's the way it works. It comes in, it goes out. That's the nature of it. And so 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved up. That ought to be a goal of yours, to get to the place where you have no debt and 3 to 6 months of living expenses. If you can't get to that goal at the moment, then your goal ought to be get $1,000 emergency fund there. Get $1,000 in an emergency fund. Well, Pastor, I don't know if I can get $1,000 emergency fund. Well, if you just start saving $5 a week, make a purpose. I'm going to save $5 a week. $5 a week. And you'll probably find out when you start saving $5 a week and you see that start building, you'll figure out a way to save $10 a week. And you'll get, the ADHD folks call it dopamine. You get a dopamine rush from saving money. And it works. So number 2, you ought to wait 30 days before making any major purchases. Now, I know sometimes the washing machine goes down, but listen to me. Listen to me. We've been married 20 years at least before we bought our first brand new washer and dryer. My mother bought us a used washer and dryer that was yellow, I think. Or was it cream color? It was cream color. A cream color used washer and dryer from her boss when we got married. Great wedding present. And the couch. And we still got the couch. Sure do. And there was a chair that was in my office for a long time until the leg broke on it. And I changed offices. And so, but we still got the couch she bought. All right, 23 years later. Okay? And that set finally went out. We've been married probably 5, 6 years, something like that. That set went out. We were living in Vicksburg, and I bought another used set for cash off somebody's porch. And that one started. It went out from time to time. I've loaded washer and dryer at different times in my vehicle and drove them to Holcomb so an old man about 85 years old could work on them on the back end of the truck, because I could fix them for $20 and I'd have to spend $500 to buy a new one. Okay? Wait. Think of, do I really need to buy this new one? Do I really need to buy this new one? Usually, especially if they don't have a lot of bells and whistles on them, washers and dryers are pretty simple fixes. In fact, when we got rid of the ones that we had, did y'all get that one we had? Yeah, they got the set we had. And do what? And she wanted it back. She about ready to trade you the new ones for the old ones back. But simple, easy fix. I know we like all the fancy gadgets on our cars anymore that cost so much. You know, the power windows and the power locks and the touch screens and all that other business. All that stuff is prone to go out. If you find you something with manual windows and manual locks, if you can find something like that, that stuff has less to break on it. If you wait 30 days about making a major purchase, you won't make an impulse purchase. I tell car salesmen, look, I shop for cars. If I'm going to buy a vehicle, I shop for about 6 months. I'm looking at them. I went over time tonight already, but I'm looking at them. And before I buy one, I tell the salesman right fast, I'm going to sleep on this before I pull the trigger and buy it. I'm talking to you today. I'm driving this thing today. I may drive it home tonight, but I'm not signing on the dotted line until I go to bed and sleep on this thing. And about a half a day tomorrow, think about it before I make this decision. Take your time making those big decisions. Number 3, start a jar of pocket change and deposit the funds into an account, a savings account every 6 months. I'm not going to spend change. Now, it's a little different now. I save change a lot, but some of it goes in the handle of my truck. And the boys steal it. Number 4, you might ask your employer to set up a direct deposit into a separate account so you can keep it separate from your daily expenditures and you never even see it. It just goes. Now, sometimes they can't do that, but number 5, don't pay for services you can do yourself, like getting your grass cut. I know people that take every shirt, every pair of pants they own to the cleaners. And every week, it goes to the cleaners. Okay? You're not saving very much money unless you make a lot of money if you're taking your clothes to cleaners every week. You might even consider if you got, don't come whining to me about financial struggles. If you're eating out 3 or 4 times a week, I don't want to hear it. Well, that's just my me time. Well, you know what you need? You need some me savings. Okay, if you're one of the things you can do for yourself is fix you a meal and take it to work with you. You should consider saving some of your tax return. Save it. Unless you're going to buy mattresses and furniture from Box Drop. Save that tax return. There are people that get tax returns. They buy a new set of furniture every year with that tax return. Every year. People buy a new mattress every year. They buy junk. They buy junk every year. Consider saving some of that tax return and change your withholdings. If you're getting some huge tax return, you are giving the government an interest-free loan. Change your withholdings, take the difference between what they were, what you were making and what you start making when you change your withholdings, take the difference and put it in a savings account. You'll be better off. You get what little bit of interest is being expended. So the lesson for tonight, everybody say, save. I want everybody in this room, even Skylar. Skylar, I want you to start telling your daddy every week, Daddy, I want a quarter. And go save it. Put it in a jar and don't touch it. Can you do that? Good. Give her a quarter every week. We'll journey along. But bills have got to be paid, Pastor. Well, look, I'm going to hit this because it happens a lot in the world in which we live. Okay, I know that stuff gets tight, but mamas and daddies ought to be paying for their kids as they're growing up. There comes a time when you get supposed to be grown. You get supposed to be grown. You need to take care of yourself. But if you're taking your kids' money to pay bills, this should not be happening. It should not be happening. I know people that literally every month their children have to help pay the light bills. And I'm talking kids that are 15, 16 years old working little part-time jobs. They have to help pay the light bill and water bill. That's not a kid's responsibility. Sometimes it's a lazy parent. Sometimes it's a parent that's a bad money manager. Do better. Do better. Do better. Any questions on saving? Okay. If you, the issue is the government is earning the interest off the money that you're putting in. If you put it in an account, you're earning the interest on that money. And so you have the self-discipline to take that money, go put it in the bank into a savings account or something you can't touch very easily every week or every other week, ever how it works. A lot of single people who do maximum withholdings. They'll claim like 3-4 dependents. I've seen it happen. So they'll get several $1,000s back on their tax returns. And you just can't do that. So, or I'm sorry, a lot of people that have 3 or 4 dependents claim none. That's the way it works. This backwards. They claim none. And then at the end of the year, they get a bunch of money back. And so, yeah. Yeah, but on their withholdings, they claim none. So they're taking out maximum amount. And then, but they got 3 kids. And so when their taxes are filed, they get a whole bunch of money back. They just been loaning, somebody said, I got $6,000 back. Well, you just loaned the government $6,000 for a year at 0%. They weren't paying you any interest on that. So, any other questions on saving? How much should I save? Just start saving. But you need to set an amount. It's like tithes and offerings. Tithes are 10%, offerings as you purpose in your heart to give, but you should purpose in your heart to give a certain amount. That way, because if you give out of what's left over, there ain't going to be none left over. And saving ought to be predetermined as well. Okay? I'm going to save X amount of dollars every week because there won't be enough left over to save if you let it go that way. All right. God bless you. I went too long tonight. You're dismissed in Jesus' name.